وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. We praise God, we bear witness there's no God but one God, Allah, the absolute one, and He has no partners in His kingdom. So, Assalamu alaikum. Mashallah, with the grace of God, we're here for another Friday and fasting. We're enjoying the month of Ramadan. We should never even for a second think that I am fasting or something. God is running everything. So if you're fasting and we're here, this is all done by God, and we should, we feel happy and special that God has chosen us to do His two major commandments at the same time. As we remember the dua Ibrahim made, he didn't say that I will do. He said the contact prayer is the title. It says contact prayer, gift from God. In 1440, so 40, verse number 40, he prayed to God, "My Lord, make me one who constantly observe the contact prayers, salat, and also my children. Our Lord, please answer my prayers." So he's saying to God that I want to do it. He said, "Make me." So not I'm doing it, God doing it. It's amazing to see when the Ramadan is how God has designed the system that every year 10 days fall behind in the lunar calendar and the sun cycle. So the Ramadan is not always at the same time. One may start to observe fasting in the winter, which is really easy. Many places on the planet, like in the northern part, they have Ramadan so short, just for a few hours. They don't even have to eat anything, But those people are tested, and then those people live in the summer in the right front of the sun, in the crater. In the winter, the short and cool summer, fasting. But it's amazing how God tests us. If the Ramadan was always to come in December or January, it will be easy and nobody will really feel it. But when it comes to summertime, like right now, longer and hot days, so every soul is get tested. Are you sure you really want to do it? Same, if you really think the same thing happens with the contact prayers. Sometimes your mood is so good, you're happy, you're excited, you get up and do it. Sometimes you feel so lazy, so tired. Sometimes you feel sick. These are the moments that God is, I feel like really testing us. That in good times you do it, in the bad times, how about that? Same goes for charity. Sometimes you're doing financially good and you're doing charity and everything. Sometimes you're falling behind on bills and stuff like that. And these are the times God tests us. That even God, the verse says in paraphrasing that on the worst time they still gave charity. I've been working on this I have talked about this topic about the point of certainty. And I've been digging out in the Quran and finding verses about, what is the point of certainty. And, miracles, as we know, miracles happen in life, some event will happen and you analyze and you say, wow, somebody driving down and then, something happened and you're saved by and you clearly think in your mind, this was a miracle, if someone I heard that he was so sick that he had less than 3% chance to survive and came out, and you think this is a miracle. So miracles do happen, in our life. Something will just come out of this world, nothing can do in this world. A doctor will tell somebody, you have cancer, and you will hear a story that they come out of it, and certain events will happen in our life, you read a statement, something, why are these so important and why is it so linked? Like miracle, when the prophets used to come, they show miracle, like Moses, when he throws down the staff and become a giant serpent. What was that miracle for? A person who doesn't believe, to at least start believing that, wow, this person that walked in, he says, I'm the messenger of God. Now, he threw down the staff and become a serpent. That's like his ID. You go to some place and they say, show me your ID, your passport. It identifies you, who you are. So that miracle was to identify Moses that he came from some supreme power. And the message that he's carrying, listen to that message. So that is the whole purpose of the miracle. It's not to be amazed by, wow, what a good, magic that was. And you eat popcorn and soda and you go home and then forget about it. No. Something, an event has happened, like God tells Jesus that when the food comes down, I'm paraphrasing, when God said, when we show our miracles, whoever doesn't believe, the God retribution will be severe. So these miracles, the events, the statements, the Quran is full of statements and miracles. What are the value that hold? Is just to be amazed, or what lesson do we learn from it? So that's why this topic may spill over a few sermons that I want to talk about what happened with Abraham and Moses and their all this and what we can learn. Why God is talking about these miracles and the stories, especially the Moses, over and over and over and over. It's just not to for something to amaze us. What can we learn from this miracle, and how come they're so important? One of the words that God talks about, the point of certainty. In Surah 13, verse number 2, God says, God is the one who raised the heavens without pillars, that you can see, then assume all authority. He committed the sun and moon, each running in its orbit for a predetermined period. He controls all things and explains the revelations, that you may attain certainty about meeting your Lord. So now God is talking about this visible miracle that we can look up in the heaven and the sky, the moon cycle. We can determine from up to many years, when exactly the new moon will born. They're running in a very precise timing. What does that tell you? All this system that's running in precise control. This is one of the miracle you can say. This is happening. It's happening from a supreme power. So you read it in the book and you say the book is a messenger. You read it and you see what God is saying. So why are these miracles? To reach the point of certainty. And I've been working on it, that to learn about point of certainty, because that's the best place to be. There are many verses we read in the Quran that when certain people, that God talks about, when the point of death came, at that time they become certain. And then at that time they start praying, God, please send us back, and we will do righteous work. Because when somebody's time comes, the curtains are lifted, and then you can see the reality. The goal is to reach that level, or as much as you can go closer, because God is encouraging us, telling us that this can happen. You can see the reality, It doesn't mean that you actually being there. Like you want to go take a vacation. You haven't been there. First time you're going there, but you read the brochures. You can get as much information from reading and looking. So you have pretty good idea what to expect when you go there, and you're certain that you will find that over there, because people have been going there. These are the brochures, and you know that. And if you don't find something, you will actually be upset at the hotel or whatever. Look, you said that because this was your certainty. You know that you spend the money. So without going there, but you know in certain that this is what you will expect. So this is the similar thing, something that God is telling us we can learn by reading and understanding what we'll be expecting, and reach the level of certainty that you will know for certain that when the angel comes, like if I want to be like, I'll be admit that this is like my life goal, that I want to be, that when the angel comes on my doorstep, that I'm already at the level that there's nothing will increase my not that I'll be shocked or something, So we should race towards that level, because that's the best place to be. It's like a level of certainty is one of the example I usually use, is that it's like you have to catch a flight, and you don't know when time the flight is, but reaching the airport and a point of certainty is like sitting in the VIP lounge, reaching there. Once you enter the VIP lounge, and for the rest of your life, you just stay there, relax, enjoy the food and entertainment, and when your flight is announced, you go. So that is to be the place while living in it. So you can start enjoying the real heaven right there on earth. And there are many verses in the Quran where God talks about reaching the point of certainty. They are certain about meeting God. Even in the beginning of the Quran, they're certain about Day of Judgment, that when it is coming. So going above and beyond, like Ramadan, we know that there's a commandment from God that you fast during the month, once a year. But one should say that, what else I can get from this month? There's much more than just fasting. When the New Year resolution comes, people make plans. Okay, this year I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna go to the gym, so we can do something like that. Say this Ramadan my resolution will be I will be in the best behavior. And then I'll continue for the rest of the year. So as soon as you controlling any negativity you can find in yourself, dig down yourself that okay, this is I found negativity, that sometimes I lose my temper or something. I'm gonna be straight fast and I'm gonna control it. And then once I come out of this boot camp, I'll continue for after that. Another. And then there are many more resolutions you can make, best behavior or something that you work on it and you control it, because when you're fasting, this is a tough time, because when we're hungry we lose temper fast, and if you can control in the worst timing, what happens at boot camp, they wake you up early in the morning, they really drill down on you, so if you can survive the tough times, and when the good time comes, then you can, it'll be much easier for you to continue. Let me just go through the year. Another thing to understand is when we are fasting in the month of Ramadan, we get to feel what is to be like hungry and thirsty. If there was no Ramadan, imagine, every time we get hungry, we'll just go open the fridge and eat whatever we want to eat or drink. But this 1 month of training, it makes us realize how it feels to be hungry and control it until the sunset, or thirsty. Why this is so important? Because, God telling us in the Quran about the structure of hell. One of the punishment in the hell is the hunger and thirst, And so we can examine this month and how does it feel to be hungry. Imagine right now we're hungry, we know that we can control until sunset. But if anybody, God forbid, end up in hell and is hungry, like I can't even imagine myself if I'm in hell and I'm hungry, it is not just for the sunset, it is forever. First of all, that's a hardcore reality. No food, what you want to eat, and God gives a description of what kind of food you will expect in hell. Something that, when you're putting the trash out and you see some rotten food, you don't even want to touch it. I wear a glove if I have to put something in and it fell off or something. I don't want to even touch with my bare hand. Imagine some kind of description that God is telling us, this is the food, and they will be so hungry that they'll gulp it down, and that's not going to fulfill their hunger. We can imagine that right now we get hungry and then we get so desperate to eat. We go to a restaurant and we're yelling at the waiter, come on man, how long? How long? Because we cannot control. Imagine over there, and after you eat and the water is so hot and so miserable. So God is teaching us, and another thing that to understand and fear, we must really reverence and humble and respect to God and show our total devotion and love and praying for forgiveness that we don't even, God forbid, we end up, in hell. One of the statements I was listening to one of the submitter, and when she was saying it shook me really hard. She said, a person who's hanging by his toes to the wall of purgatory and escape the hell will feel really, really lucky. You're hanging by the toes, to the wall of purgatory. This is one of the strong submitter that was making this statement. I was like shocked. What I believe, that even if you can get to the wall of purgatory, because that's how horrible the hell is. So let's take a break and ask God for forgiveness. Alhamdulillah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. We praise God, we bear witness there's no God but one God, the absolute one, and He has no partners in His kingdom. So, when you experience a miracle, a certain event that happens, you hear a story, somebody tells you a powerful statement, we get amused, wow, this is amazing. Our adrenaline is running high and we're so excited, say, I'm going to do it, when you make resolution, you hit the gym, but after a while, it just comes slowly moves with. Yasir told one of the good story at TGIF. That was a very powerful. When he met somebody, he has a sign on his door. He says, "Thanks God." It says TGIF. Thanks God. No, today God is first. So that person, he says, an old man, and he's written it down and he's following it. We get amused, but then we forget about it, and that's the whole tragedy of when God hits us with a miracle or something exciting. We get excited. The problem is solved. You hit by a miracle and something terrible was happening. Okay, that's good. That's positive. Something bad was happening and somebody got alive or something, come out of disease. But the main tragedy, the main loss is that what did you learn from it? Did it make you believe any stronger? If that didn't happen, believe me, that miracle was a total loss, a waste. God gave us such a. You hear a powerful story. You go home and you think about it. What happened? What can I learn from it? Because these stories really impact our life. My mom used to tell me a story when I was a kid that there's a farmer. He used to go sell his merchandise in the market. One day he was coming back. He saw a man selling advices. So he pays some money, and he said, "Oh, let me try my luck." And what he gets is the advice is that never leave today's work to tomorrow. So he comes home and he's eating the supper, and his wife's like, "Okay, you're tired, you go to sleep." He said, "No, I spend money and I have this statement, and I had to do some moving in the farm, so I would do some work in the farm. I don't want to leave it. I spend money, might as well I use it." So he goes in the farm, he works late, and he comes home. At that night, the storm hit, and if he had not done his work, all would have been lost. So he learned a statement, advice, a strong advice, and he make a use of it, best use of it. So I wanna share my personal story. That what happened with me, and then I'll end, inshallah. That it happened like 15 years ago, and it changed my life in a big time. It made me much more humble, and towards God, and be more grateful. And up to now, I literally wrote it in my head, and it reminds myself every time I sit down. Not every time, but mostly, I'm eating. When I'm driving by a farm and I see animals eating grass and stuff like that, and when I see tree in the summer, the vegetables producing, it reminds me of that story. Many times. It was like 15 years ago. I was living in LA, and I was working long hours in the hospital, and then I had 3 days off, and then me and my friend, we were like, let's go San Francisco from LA. So we started driving towards San Francisco, and it's a 5-6 hour drive, and it was August, very, very hot summer. So these events that was happening, sometimes God was like Moses, Abraham, other people, in our life, certain events will happen in precise one after another, We look at we went to buy a washer, and then certain events happen. Everything was arranged. You found this, there. These are not just coincidence. We know that God is running everything. So if certain events happen in our life, pay attention to this, because these are running by God, and for us to learn and God is teaching us, and hold on to that. The lesson for the rest of your life. Because you don't buy a tool and just use it once and throw it away. These are the tools you take them and you use them over and over to modify and improve your life. So when we were driving, it was hot. It was 100 triple degree, and we were going through, there's a lot of deserts that you go through, and it was hot, and in the middle of the way, I was so hungry that we saw a fast food, and we pull over, and we were sitting in the air-conditioned car, and we come out, and we go to the restaurant, and it's hot, and inside is cold again, and I'm irritated. I'm like, come on, let's get something to eat. I'm looking at the menu, and I don't want to spoil my meal. I said, I want to order something that is good. I don't want to order something that I'm hungry and I want to enjoy, and at the same time, kill my hunger. So I took some time reading everything, and I said, finally, I said, okay, I'll just try that. And I ordered. I'm irritated. I'm sitting in the air-conditioned restaurant, and I'm irritated. And I'm waiting, and all this stuff is going on, And I look out the window, the drive-through window, and this is not just a coincidence that just happened. What I saw, there was an open field, and there was almost like a black color cow that was sitting in the middle of the ground in the open sun. And the cow is eating dry grass, which I don't even want to walk on it, even with my shoes. If I see dry grass, I'll just go around it. But that cow is eating the dry grass. And at that time, it really hit me with heart that God has blessed me with so much. I'm living an easy life. I'm driving a car. All the needs are met. I'm always in a good environment, air conditioning and everything. Everything is God is taking care of. Water when I need it. Here is another creature of God. I'm a creature of God. This is a creature of God. This is a total submitter. What God has told him, the cow. One of the verse God tells us that that you see the animals and trees, they're prostrating to God. So they are obeying God. They're told God has told them this is what your job will be, and they're precisely doing their job. They're eating what God has told us. They're eating a dry grass and producing a fresh, good meat for us to eat. When sometimes you have to eat vegetables, we get like, oh my God, there's no meat. But that cow is eating a dead grass and producing meat for us, milk, and many other benefits from this animal. Not complaining, just sitting there, and the position was looking towards the restaurant, and that really impacted me. That when we eat, I'm not saying that to go become vegetarian, but it applies to all kind of foods. You look at trees, we cannot go outside in the summer. We cannot stand for a few minutes. We want to go in the shade and something. But these trees, they've raised. The branches coming out on the side. They want to get more and more sunlight because this is what the God commanded them to take the sunlight. And these humans and animals are producing carbon dioxide. You take it and you produce it, and this is what their job is. And not only you produce oxygen for them, at the same time you produce food and pack it, and so they can. This is what the trees are doing. They're prostrating. What does that mean? They go down. They're following the God's commandment down to the complete. All the vegetables and the food that when we eat, when we put in our mouth, we should thank God. Mention the name of God and be humble that this food, this meat that we're eating is produced by an animal, that the food they were eating. Even in the farms, the agriculture, like where they raise cows, the food that if you even see how they mix it and how you don't want to touch with your bare hands, but they're eating it and producing us for So we should be really humble and respect that God has given us the food, and understand the fact these are submitters that were serving us on this planet Earth. What if the trees refuse to work what they do? This world will be full with all toxic gases. They purify, they clean. What goes in the soil, all the waste products, they take the waste product and convert into food, at the same time giving us oxygen and food. So these are when event that happened, you take it down, you write it down, So you don't want to be just humble at that time and then forget it and and then just never even pay attention. But you want to pay attention and learn from these kind of events so you can get more out of it. And at the same time when I was looking through the window, and I'm like already struck with this, and I'm shaking, at the same time there's a big SUV pulls in. I see sort of two extremes, and that SUV, they were like family, and so this event doesn't happen just coincident. They were coming back from some lake or something. They were pulling a boat, and they were loud family. They were like teenagers and the family, and they're screaming at each other loud, and loud music is playing. Hey, what do you want? I say, I did this. I want a burger, and how come there's ketchup in it? This something like that. They're screaming at each other and loud and disrespectful to each other and their parents, and all of a sudden they're gone, and this event was over. But it really, this whole purpose to tell you this story is to my experience, that when something happened, and it made me much humble, and I have absolutely nothing to do with it. If you look at me, you'll be like You know what? In fact, if you look at this story, I was the irritated one. I was the arrogant one. I was the ungrateful one. You know, the most gracious has taught me this lesson. So if you find any negativity, that's my fault. You know, I should. Something happens in your life that you did something wrong and you're ashamed to tell somebody because it was your fault. So this is I'm supposed to be ashamed of telling you that this happened because I was the one arrogant one. But the credit goes to the most gracious. And if I don't learn from this story, I just walk away and say, "Oh yeah, man, that was amazing. You know how the cow was doing and this and that. And then just become heedless and walk away. How God is gonna feel? I try to teach this person this lesson, and he, when we tell our kids a lesson, and they ignore it, how do we feel? They feel upset, and maybe we'll teach them a few more times. They'll say, he won't listen, or somebody we know, we will try to tell them, man, don't do this, don't do. But if they ignore it, then we'll say, okay, you know what, don't even bother telling him because he's not going to listen. See how God is going to feel. And then we learn from the Quran that there's a point comes in somebody's life that then God stops. Let them go. Let's do whatever they're doing. We'll meet them on the day of judgment. So you don't want to be in that. So when something happens, event happens, you need to pay attention, and we need to get most out of it what we can learn. So inshallah, this will be I'm working more on the miracles and events and how the story of prophets and how they learn from it and what we can learn from it. So inshallah in the future coming I will talk more about it. So